not a gamble to make money.
Collecting Pokemon cards has gone from a casual hobby to a high-demand market driven by resellers and rising prices.
Alright guys, welcome back to Vibe Trading, the show where I go on various traders and builders from the crypto space. Today I've got BassBuddha. He is head of marketing over at Crypt. You would have probably seen the cards token going pretty crazy, and I guess Pokemon euphoria at all-time highs at the moment. So I thought I'd get him on to chat about some of the things they're doing and maybe the future of the collectibles and like Pokemon general space. Thanks for coming on the show, man. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me. I know it took a while to get synced up here with Miami last week, but I'm glad we made it happen.
Yeah, I mean, maybe even just before we get into like some of the more general stuff, how was Miami for Crypt? Because you guys obviously shared some updates and probably also like got to chat a lot of guys in person about the thesis, and for those who weren't aware of it and things like that. What was the Miami experience like for you guys?
So we landed in Miami with two pretty big updates, to talk about that week, right? Well, I guess three, actually. We had a record-setting month in terms of revenue for April. We hit $85 million in revenue, $165 million in volume. We had just partnered with comicbook.com to expand outside of TCGs for our platform. Obviously pretty self-explanatory there. We've got on-chain tokenized comic books as the next collectible asset class being added to our platform. And we launched a sealed gacha platform as well just last week, where the only things inside of it are sealed Pokemon packages. So ETBs, booster boxes, the whole nine yards. The stars aligned for the event and and our attendance. I was just telling you off camera, we almost didn't go, and I'm so glad we did go. I got a ton of value out of this thing. Accelerate was electric. The cream has finally risen to the top here on Solana, and a lot of these projects that have, tangible revenue, they're finally breaking out from just crypto Twitter or just having regular crypto users. It was evident that, the best place to put a consumer-facing DApp on chain is Solana. I left feeling very warm and fuzzy and well taken care of, and it was nice kind of being in the spotlight there. I'm not too used to that. So, many folks wanting to interview me and coming up and just seeing my shirt and instantly recognizing the Collector Crypt label felt pretty euphoric. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was great to see, and I think also it was well covered by a bunch of guys, whether it be interviews with you or other guys in the team, and just like general discussions. I guess to quickly tap into a couple of things you said there, like one question I have is with regards to the 85 mil in revenue. Obviously, I think that's incredibly impressive, but it's very easy to like throw around these revenue numbers. What does the profit actually look like within that? How is that side of things looking?
So I don't think it entirely took into account our buybacks. So I'm pretty sure we are between 4.5 and 5 million in profit off of that revenue. So, typically our gacha operates between a 4 and 5% profit margins. We've seen our marketplace ramp up here in the last couple of weeks as well. So we're seeing a lot more volume on our marketplace side. Folks are finding the updates that we made to our marketplace a lot easier to navigate, make offers, counter offers. So I'm really excited to see that picking up. And then, of course, we kind of have our bread and butter with these gacha machines that have been performing as well as they ever have.
And I guess like within that profit, I read a while back that like the way you're able to make sure anytime someone opens a gacha, in theory they get equivalent or even maybe more value than what they paid to participate or open the gacha. The way you're doing that is by buying these cards in bulk to a certain extent, and that's basically allowing you to like bake in your profits within there and also like give some extra return to the user. Like one thing I've not really heard too much about from you guys is like a bit more of a discussion around how you actually source these cards and like what it looks like to do deals with these bulk providers, because this like Pokemon market is like getting so big now that it'd be more interesting to know behind the scenes, like how you actually like finding these bulk cards, who are the people you typically get them from, like what is the supply looking like things like that.
Yeah, so our inventory in general has been on the rise with this Pokemon market that we've been seeing here. Even cards that we bought 2 weeks ago are trending in the up and to the right direction, right? We source most of our stuff through private deals as well as through like collecticons. So I was just up in Cleveland over the weekend meeting with a friend. One of our largest card sourcers at goes to the events constantly, is just bringing carry-on or checked luggage size duffel bags with him wherever he goes. We kind of give him a list of what we're looking for in the price range, and he goes out and sources a lot of our inventory from these large collecticon events and similar events like that. We have a number of sourcing pipelines to get a lot of these cards. I think over 30% of the users on our site will end up not only claiming and holding onto a card, but having one shipped to them as well. So it's not a system where folks are just interacting with our gotcha machine and selling them back repeatedly. We constantly have to stock inventory because we're Collector Crypt, right? We're the place for collectors, built by collectors, and the ultimate goal at the end of this is you interact with our platform and you find the card of your dreams and you keep it on chain as ownership, or you redeem it yourself. I've got a number of cards here next to me that I've claimed from Collector Crypt, and I think I'm up to 32 slabs that I've redeemed. I probably have another 20 on chain that I keep. The great part about these tokenized assets is the expensive ones can sit in a climate-controlled vault away from your dogs who love to chew on things, right? So typically, I'm redeeming my sub $1,000 cards because I love collecting. I love holding on to them, but some of the more expensive ones I don't keep at home, right? They're all stored on chain for me, safe and sound. I sleep better at night that way.
Yeah, I mean they're obviously stored on chain to a certain extent, but they're physically like being held somewhere. What does that actually look like as well? Do you guys have one warehouse? Do you have multiple warehouses? Does some third party hold them for you? What does it look like before a card actually gets shipped to someone in person?
So here stateside in the U.S., we have 3 vaults, one of which is ours, Omni Vault, and then we partner with PWCC and PSA. We are actually transitioning into total ownership of everything at our own vault. I think it just makes the most sense for shipping, ownership, custody. We're paying thousands of dollars every month to these other companies to vault our assets, and our CEO Twam, knew early on we're going to have to pivot from that structure and start taking these things in-house and owning them. So thus propped up Omni Vault. Shipping times are definitely the fastest out of that because we can control it. PWSA is seeing like record-breaking traffic to their site, not only for graded cards, but for vaulting requests and shipping requests as well. And that's great. More power to them, but we feel better about custodying all of these on our own. So we are making large efforts weekly to move inventory from some of these partner vaults to our own vault here and kind of prop up Omni Vault as a solution for not only ourselves, but a lot of our partners in this space as well, to take advantage of our vaulting methods, our shipping costs, our inventory management technology, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and as these things go up in value and have more, let's call it real world value, like, and you guys are starting to now explore, I guess, like potential use cases of these cards as collateral. I saw, partnered with Loopscale, for example. I'm sure that's like just the first step in like many things you guys have planned on the, let's just call it further like liquiditying of all of this kind of stuff. What does that look like in the case of Loopscale and maybe other future ones that you have planned?
We're finally starting to see, again, our collectibles as an asset class. These, I've got my collector app open, twice a day. I check that thing just like I check my stocks or my crypto holdings, right? They're finally being viewed as assets. Your first edition Charizard isn't just a piece of cardboard that you keep in a binder. there's real tangible money associated with that thing, and so you can put that up as leverage to borrow against. It has intrinsic value. It's held in an escrow account that you can borrow stable coins against to go and do whatever you need to do. You come back and pay off that loan, and you've unlocked access to your card again. I think Loopscale is just kind of the beginning, and we really haven't even seen the partnership with Loopscale take off yet. I'm really excited to be partnered with these guys because just the on-chain lending rails for RWAs, we haven't even begun to scratch the surface of what's possible with this technology here, which is awesome. It's really cool to see.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Loopscale one's not even live, right? I mean, like one question I had because I've not seen anything about it is what are the like LTVs gonna look like maybe on these cards? Like, say for example, a card's $1,000. How much money can I borrow against it, for example? And like, what are the kind of like some of the rates associated?
That's a good idea. Excuse me, that's a good question. I think some of these things are still being hammered out in the background on exactly what the metrics are going to look like. But a typical loan at a bank, I would imagine Loopscale is going to absolutely ratio with rates, right? You're not going to be paying 19% interest like with a credit card cash advance. I'd imagine it's something a lot more agreeable. But the specifics of that have not been entirely fleshed out. But I would imagine, you have $1,000 card, you could probably, borrow against the entire value of that card, if not close to the value of that card.
Makes sense, yeah. I mean, and I guess like to expand a bit on one of the things we spoke about like right at the start, which is obviously the new release of you guys coming into comic books and stuff like that. I recently saw Logan Paul was discussing, I think it was One Piece comic books that he was buying, like some of the OG first edition ones and things like that. Is there anything cool that you can share, or just like to give people a bit more context on like why that's potentially such a big part of like this market as well?
So I can kind of paint a picture of what buying comic books looks like right now, and then maybe the on-chain solution will make a bit more sense. Typically these comic books have been kept in the back of like a collectible store. You got to walk past the Warhammer 40K figurines, and then you get to the TCGs, then you get to the board games, and in this dusty, musty basement or attic or wherever they're being kept in these large boxes, right? You've got a 30-year-old comic book that's kind of been pressed together with a bunch of comic books outside of a climate-controlled environment. They're a bit musty smelling. You got to rifle through all of them to find the ones that you want. It's difficult, right?
So people would have also seen you guys added the comic book stuff. Recently I saw like Logan Paul speaking about that, and it's obviously like an interesting part that might also be a large part of your guys' revenue and something people use more if you want to give people a bit of a, story of like why the comic book side is actually interesting and like what that looks like for you guys going forward.
Definitely. Comic books will be our first kind of breakthrough from the TCG space that we have kind of lived in for the past couple of years now. If you looked at the collectibles category, right, Pokemon TCG is really just the tip of the iceberg. We've got an overwhelming amount of our current traffic to our website is focused on Pokemon TCG. I think it's about 85% of the current volume now. We've got 10% in One Piece TCG and 5% in the sports cards TCG. And again, I think I just saw a metric the other day, something like it's in the trillions for tokenized for graded cards. It's even a larger number for the collectibles market at large, right? We're talking signed jerseys, memorabilia, and comic books. And comic books will be the first one that we're kind of testing out here in this pilot. But the iceberg is much deeper than just TCGs, and we really wanted to take advantage of that. This relationship with comicbook.com came at a great time, and it's going to make purchasing comic books a lot easier than the traditional method, which is, kind of going to your card store, your collector store, going all the way into the back, and here lies a bunch of these kind of dusty boxes full of your comic books, right? These trading cards that we know and love can sit on a shelf quite well or behind a display case. You can grab it. They don't take up much real estate. what you see is what you get. With comic books, it's a much more difficult hunt, if you will. I've got to rifle through these old boxes with a bunch of mixed bags of comic books. You know, if I find something I want, I then have to go and rifle through the comic book, make sure there's no torn pages or bubble gum stuck inside. It's a time-consuming process, and the comic books are not kept in the condition that we would prefer our trading cards to be kept in. You know, I can get one of these guys in a little penny sleeve and then put it into a top loader. Maybe it sits in my binder. With comic books, traditionally, they just get that exterior kind of plastic protective packaging here. You got to pull it out, search through it, the whole 9 yards. It's not a very fast or efficient process. So bringing the comic books on chain and tokenizing them and allowing people to purchase them from the marketplace or engage in the gacha, I think will spark some curiosity amongst our users for comic book collecting, which is loads of fun. I'm a Fantastic Four guy myself. I love the Silver Surfer comic books. And there's a large untapped audience for comic book collectibles out there that we would like to capture. Outside of our kind of crypto ecosystem that we know and love, there are real collectors out there that would definitely be interested in jumping on this and sourcing graded comic books as well, which is an entirely another story. It's a tokenization process that kind of guarantees the condition of something before you drive to the store, rifle through a bunch of boxes to find what you're looking for. So it's a lot faster, it's more efficient, and the condition of these comic books that you're procuring on chain are guaranteed because they're graded.
And I think another good question to ask would be, and it's probably a good thing to ask given that you're actually the head of marketing, right? I think that given right now, even if you have like some good fiat on-ramp type stuff for Collector Crypt, like I think it still can feel quite crypto, and I'm sure that is maybe scary to some very Pokemon style fans who are maybe not super crypto native, right? Like even though I know you added a bunch of like USDC facing stuff on the selling instead of Sol, for example, I think that's obviously a great step in the right direction. But like I'd be interested to get your perspective on how much of the kind of like volume and action and stuff you think is coming from a more crypto native user base, and maybe like how you're thinking about expanding beyond that into like more of a non-crypto user base.
So the last thing I want for a user who has, maybe seen us on Twitter or through an Instagram ad or something like that, if the ad works, if they get to our platform, they find something they want to interact or purchase with, the absolute last thing I want is for the transaction to be the hardest part of this, right? The ad should be the hardest part of this. Getting them to our site should be the most difficult thing, to stop their scroll, to get them to be like, hell, I would really like to engage with this thing. We've won them over, and then for the bottleneck to be, okay, go find a crypto wallet, get some Solana on there, bridge it off of Coinbase over to here, turn it into USDC, that's not an ideal situation. Now, for our collector-heavy audience, folks will figure that out. We have the absolute largest breadth of inventory here on Collector Crypt amongst all of our competitors. We've got some of the coolest grails you could ever find, not just on chain. And for the very serious collectors, some of these hurdles, and they're very small hurdles now because Solana is a great ecosystem to build on, but they're still hurdles nonetheless. The serious collectors will figure that out. What my issue is there's still a stigma against crypto assets amongst retail users, whether they feel that it's a scam or it's too difficult to figure out, or maybe it takes an additional 5 minutes for the first time to get to our platform before they are loaded up with the right amount of USDC that they need. And so we are in the midst of a bit of a rebrand and an entire website overhaul at Collector Crypt. We've got an app in development as well that will just kind of take these crypto rails that we know and love and abstract them even a little bit more. So you're Nico, as this non-crypto native gentleman who really wants to go pull an Alakazam, you're not met with anything crypto related. You're going to come to our platform. It's going to say, "What's up, Nico? Apple Pay or Google? Pick one. Put your email address in here." Crypto shit's going to happen in the background. You don't have to care about it. I'm a big proponent of technology should be experienced and not explained. You should not need to brush up on Solana networks or anything like that before you make a purchase here. I would liken it to, what credit cards were back in the 90s. Folks were a bit reluctant to move away from cash. I have no idea how Visa architecture or payment processing works. I know when I tap my piece of plastic on the kiosk, the nice person behind the counter hands me my cold brew. That's all I should know about how Visa interacts. I've got some money on some plastic. I'm going to interact with it and do a transaction. And so the crypto rails will always be there. The amount of exposure, I guess, is going to depend on the interest of our user. Should you want to learn a little bit more about crypto? Should you want to learn about the tools and technologies and why this is permissionless and what all that means? You can hop on into our Discord. We've got a lovely group of community members who are very well versed on these sort of things that are more than happy to help you out. You don't have to know any of that stuff to interact on our website. Even now you don't, but here in about a month or two with our website overhaul, it's going to be even easier and more frictionless.
Yeah, because I would just imagine like some users it's even like a blocker for them to use like a stable coin because they don't know if it's something they can trust to hold their money in, right? For example. But I think that will improve over time, and I'm sure with the new updates you guys are going to add, you'll abstract maybe some of that away. But for the more crypto native guys, I think like one big debate is obviously around like you guys having a token and the reasons for that and what that looks like. And you guys are obviously discussing things like buybacks, which is obviously great if you're going to flywheel at least some revenue back into the token and stuff. But what do you think also, or do you have any thoughts around the kind of like equity versus token debate for a project such as yourself that's like making as much revenue as you are in crypto?
So I will preface everything I'm about to say with the token is purely a speculative asset that has no intrinsic value for the moment. We are very eager for the SEC to give us some guidelines on how we can operate for that not to be the case. But we are, very much positioning ourselves for what you just described to be the future of our token, where the cards token represents and again, we're talking about hypotheticals here, where the cards token is going to represent the entire amount of tokenized assets that we have on chain. It's going to represent the success of the business. I think we've got $30 million in tokenized assets and counting currently. And, our CEO has talked about buybacks a number of times. I think they're certainly necessary, and they are going to be, they're planned, and they are going to be executed well in advance of anyone announcing that we're doing buybacks. Of course,
Of course.
We're not here to give anyone a leg up on the token or anything. We'd prefer to acquire it at a bit of a lower price, but it's been a great couple of weeks for token holders. I think the market is finally starting to wake up to what is a speculative asset versus what is a token backed by a company that's doing real revenue on chain here, and we definitely are the latter. Again, we are very eager for some guidelines to be put in place for us to operate as we would like. But for now, that guidance is just not there. But that's not going to stop us from doing buybacks. That's not going to stop us from, continuing to increase our tokenized inventory. It's not going to stop us from kicking ass month over month. But for now, in this make believe fairy tale scenario that would be the ideal outcome, the cards token is representative of the collector crypt business and the tokenized assets that we have on chain. And so if you don't want to buy, a PSA 10 first edition Alakazam for $45,000, you can gain some exposure to the on-chain TCG market by participating in our token.
Yeah, no, I think it's super cool. I think probably another, I guess, when we talk about like the cards thesis, right, and like for this someone who wants to invest in like this speculative token, and we think about some of the concerns, right? Some are obviously around the Pokemon market or general like collectibles market and the kind of desire there. Another one is maybe also around competition. So like you guys are, currently the only real successful project in this niche that also has a token to even invest in, right? And you are also very much the dominant player in terms of market share for gacha and general like collectible on-chain marketplaces, right? But I'd be interested to hear like, your personal thoughts around some of your competitors, or how you view like competition as a marketplace, as a product like this. I saw you made a video with, you did like a little pack, kind of competitive pack unboxing, or like opening with some of the other companies and stuff like that. But yeah, just interested to hear like your thoughts generally around competition in this niche.
Again, I think just tokenized trading cards we're in the trillions, right? We just did 85 million. That's such a minuscule amount, and of revenue in terms of what the actual collectibles market is. We want to play ball with anyone and everyone. I even view what GameStop is doing right now as something favorable for us, because they're helping bring legitimacy to retail users for these kinds of mechanics here. I think when you put our numbers on paper, there's a reason we're number one. I've discussed that a bit here earlier in the chat, but we've got the best inventory. We have the best odds. We have the best expected value when you interact with our platform. We've got the best cards for you to go and find. We want you to interact with our platform, use the gacha to find your next favorite card. We don't view any other platform that's playing fairly and by the rules and doing this the right way as like this enemy or this competitor. We've had BZ on our live streams. We've had Dilly on our live streams. Slabs just popped up last week. They just launched their platform, which is a gamified, you can play with your friends and do pack battles and all of this. And there's just so much that you can do with this TCG space that we welcome any and all competition. In fact, a lot of our competition is using our rails. They're using our inventory. They're using our API and backend. They're using our vaulting technology. Some of the bigger ones, we've got Magic Eden. That's White Glove Collector Crypt. Renee's is another partner of ours. Slabs is a partner of ours. Slab Cash is a partner of ours. And this pie is it's big, right? It's the collectibles and real world assets. The tokenization of these things is a big market. There's plenty to go around. And if you are, a small card shop in Miami looking to start something up, come and talk to us. You can plug into our API. You can use our inventory. Maybe you have this cool angle that we haven't thought of yet. Do it. Like let's play ball. So, the only competition that I view in a negative environment are the ones that are kind of using the guise of crypto to do less than ideal things, to sell assets that they don't own, to juice the EV in their favor, to rinse their community. There's a number of gotchas that have popped up over the past year. It's the next big thing. Some of them are predatory and some of them aren't, and it's up to the user to decide what platform they feel the most comfortable with, and what platform has the best inventory that they're after. Maybe another platform has just a way bigger sports collectibles market than us. I think Courtyard right now is 50-50 Pokemon and sports. I admire that. I think sports are about 5% of our platform volume right now. I would love to, learn what Courtyard has done to have, this favorable sports consumer on their side. So I think there's enough to go around. We can all learn from one another, and I think a lot of these more established platforms all kind of bring something to the table that's a bit unique. And so it's up to the user to discern which one's the best for them, which one has the best EV, and which one has the inventory that they really want to go after. So I welcome competition.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, honestly, I didn't even think about the whole angle that these that you're kind of like an infrastructure for other people to build on and like plug into your like rails, right? Like it's kind of like the hyperliquid thesis, except you're not the house of finance, you're the house of all collectibles or something like that.
That's a great way of putting it.
It's a great way of putting it. And I guess also on the topic of speaking about Courtyard having, a pretty large market share when it comes to the sports card side of things, you guys have had a recent boom when it comes to things like One Piece cards being 10% of your market. And so I'm sure we're going to see more different sectors come up. And I've seen you speak about things like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Dragon Ball. Are there any kind of particular reasons why you think that these will come back over other things, or if there's any other cool things you think are maybe looking interesting when in the general collectibles world?
I mean, you can collect just about damn near anything. I like rocks. Yeah, I've got a lot of rocks. I think we're probably a bit of a ways off from a rock or mineral gotcha, but I see TCG assets and IPs like Yu-Gi-Oh really making a strong push here to kind of regain some of that market attention. For the very first time, they're kind of releasing expansion packs that include full art cards, which is really what people are chasing these days. And a full art card is kind of like this Charizard here, where it's not just a Charizard on the top half. The entire card is made up of this nice, cool Charizard, and you've seen like Dark Magician and Blue Eyes White Dragon, and that's nostalgic for me as well, man. I'm a '90s kid. I grew up with Yu-Gi-Oh and doing battles and stuff on the school bus ride. Um, every day almost with some of my friends on the bus, and had a huge collection. And I would love to see a resurgence with Yu-Gi-Oh. We've got, Dragon Ball Z is the OG shonen. It's one of the ones that started this entire category of anime that I would love to see make a resurgence as well. And it's, going back to, we're really at the tip of the iceberg here with Pokemon TCGs, and there's just so many things that you can collect. I think signed autographed jerseys are a really cool sector that I would like to get into, expanding the TCG realm, getting into memorabilia. Maybe someday we have some cool rocks on the platform. I'd definitely be a user. But the potential for RWAs to bleed into this collectible ecosystem just is a no-brainer. Say I was an autograph jersey kind of guy. I only have so much wall space in my house. I still want more. Do I put them in the closet or in my basement where they're subject to the environment? Or do I own these things, keep them in a nice temperature-controlled area, and if I ever wanted to trade that, instead of shipping something to South Korea for a buyer who really wants my signed Shohei Ohtani jersey, that transaction could just take place on chain. I can change ownership. I can sell this asset that I owned without mailing anything, without giving eBay a percentage of my sale. And without having to trust that the person on the other side of this transaction is going to pay me, is not going to, once the sale goes live, say, hey, there's something wrong with it. I never got it. I don't have to trust the USPS or FedEx or DHL. I don't have to do any of that. The ownership is tokenized. It's on chain. And I think, like, again, we've really just seen the tip of the iceberg here with where RWAs and tokenized collectibles can go. I want it all. We're Collector Crypt, right? You can collect whatever you want on Collector Crypt and find a market for it, find a buyer for every seller, find a gotcha to find your new favorite jersey or Yu-Gi-Oh card or Dragon Ball Z card, wherever that takes us. And so, spinning up these gotchas is resource and inventory intensive. We try to load, around $400,000 of assets into our gotcha machines when we do this. So we need to see that there's demand on the other side for what we aim to tokenize. But I think the sky's the limit here, and we're really excited of what 26 brings for the expansion of TCGs. We've already done that with comic books. I want to prove this thesis out and keep the momentum going with whatever the next hot thing is.
You mentioned during that, like around eBay, and the fees and kind of things like that, and you guys obviously have a marketplace feature, and you're constantly kind of like improving it, and you're like extremely competitive when it comes to the fees associated, and it's very generous for the users, right, in terms of like they're making as much money as possible compared to these other platforms. But like right now, it's like you guys have the asking price, and obviously people can, I'm sure, like place other offers. But do you think you'll add any other mechanisms when it comes to buying within the marketplace, like maybe like a more of an auction style, which we've seen be like incredibly popular with very, very like big famous cards, like whether it be like a Logan Paul type one that he sold for God knows how much or whatever it is, like anything interesting maybe coming on the marketplace side?
So it's still pinned to our Twitter profile right now, but you should really read the article that we just published about some of the marketplace updates that we've done. That's at the bringing liquidity to our marketplace is of the utmost importance to us. I don't think any platform has really found a solution to an on-chain marketplace that really works for both the buyer and the seller, and we're getting close. In addition to offers on our marketplace, you can now make counter offers. So you've got a great card, you've got it listed for $1,000. I offer you $850. You know, it used to die there, right? I didn't know who you were. I didn't have a way to contact you. I just saw a wallet address and a card that you're listing. Now I can message you directly on our marketplace. I can say, Nico, I need this card, man. What are you willing to do? I submit that $850 offer. You come back and say, you know, not a chance, pal. You know, give me $950 and it's yours. So you can submit a counter offer. I can agree to that. You know, Bob's your uncle. We've got a trade feature here that's a trustless trade mechanism. So we don't have to trust one another. When I send you a card, that you'll send me the card back that I want to trade. It handles and settles all on the Collector Crypt marketplace for a 0% fee. While we're on the subject of fees, we are 2% now. You know, some marketplaces are upwards of 4 and 5%. There's buyer and seller fees. We do not do that. You know, if you partnered with a company like eBay to sell your cards or your collectibles, you're looking at 12 to 15% in fees. So we are definitely, without a doubt, the cheapest solution to buy and sell your collectibles, and our marketplace is continually kind of innovating here on different ways that a sale can take place. And the last thing that I think is of importance with our marketplace now is you can use one escrow account to make multiple offers, meaning, you know, I can put $100 in this escrow account, make an unlimited amount of offers up to $100, and I don't need to continually add. You know, it used to be if I wanted to make five $50 offers, I needed to have $250 locked up and these offers waiting for them to take place. Well, now with the escrow account on our marketplace, you don't have to lock up all that liquidity, right? You can set some money aside, make a ton of offers, and it's basically like first come, first served basis. If I've got, you know, $500 in my escrow account, I make $150 offers. 10 of those can settle up before I need to add to that escrow account again to continue here. So just allowing your dollar to go further, making sure users aren't locked up when they're making these offers is part of the battle here as we work to make the best marketplace possible for on-chain sales.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. And maybe this is a question a little bit more for the product guys, but I think it's part of the marketing flywheel. Is do you guys have any plans for like the social aspect of, you know, Collector Crypt in terms of, you know, what does my profile look like on the site when I'm interacting with all these people in the marketplace? How can I kind of like show off my collection a bit more to an extent and sort of, you know, almost have like a leaderboard of like who has the most valuable collection or something like that? You know, what does that side of things look? Because that could be also a very interesting way to onboard a whole new wave of users if it's like, hey, you're actually going to come on and like explore people's other collections and, you know, show off your stuff, etc. We've
had a couple of community members make some incredibly awesome tools recently that, I just look at this and I'm like, duh, why didn't we think of that? And it's like the community is constantly helping us innovate as well. So, you know, again, I've spoken about Discord a little bit and how that's taking place right now. You know, we've got a live sales tracker. We've got buy, sell, trade. There's a lot of tools in our Discord to kind of champion the user and the collector, show off their collection, celebrate big wins. I know a couple of our partners, I'm not sure if I can announce just yet, have some social proof and social ideas in the works for a site that we're pretty excited about. I'm sure that announcement will come soon. I'm not going to make it on this on this chat just yet, just in case I get in trouble. But, you know, you bring up a good point because our leaderboard right now, it's kind of like the woes of the marketplace previously, right? Where you had a card listed, it's just a wallet address. I have no way of interacting with you or knowing who you are unless I've tracked your wallet, right? And so with this website overhaul that we are actively engaged in right now, it's going to be a lot more personal, right? You're going to have a dashboard. You're going to be able to see your collection. You're going to be able to kind of like flex it in a binder style. You'll see the total value of your collection like you would a collector app. And most importantly, like you, the human, if you so wish to move out of anonymity, can kind of personalize your profile. And now it's not just this Solana wallet address holding number one. It's Dakota. It's Nico. It's it's whoever. So bringing more of a social aspect here, I think, helps with just collecting in general, but it also helps with interacting with other collectors and putting a face to the name when you go to do business with someone. I think it's so important.
Awesome. Yeah, no, well answered. I think the social stuff will be huge for like the next wave and just like general like virality of sharing all this stuff. I think we covered quite a lot of cool stuff and hopefully filled some gaps in the thesis and, you know, gave some visibility to those who maybe aren't aware of what you guys are doing. Are there any closing remarks or things you want to point people towards that are maybe interesting to check out as of late that we haven't already discussed here
So
today?
if you enjoy like the social aspect and the, you know, the joy of celebrating around packs and openings and stuff, we run our own live stream twice a week called Back in the Grass. There's actually one tomorrow at 1 p.m., but every Wednesday and Friday at 1 p.m. ET, it really is just like a community celebration, right? We get together, we rip packs on the platform, we shoot the shit with our audience. It's loads of fun, and there's tons of giveaways. So I would be, I definitely want to shine a spotlight on that live stream as it's picking up traction. It's loads of fun. Definitely tune into those or check the recordings or the short form clips that come from this. Get involved in the Discord. There are, you know, there are folks that are moving 7 figures worth of Pokemon inventory a week in our Discord that are more than happy to nerd out with you. I have learned a ton from our Discord, like when did this Pokemon first appear? What was the card it was on? What, you know, the card is based off the episode that the Pokemon appeared in. It's just so much lore that I've not been exposed to. And I've been an avid Pokemon enjoyer since I was like 6 years old. We're talking 25 years of Pokemon card enjoyment, and I'm learning something new every day in the Discord. So those are the 2 social ways that you can get involved. Definitely read that pinned article if you want to learn more about the marketplace updates. And last but not least, check out comicbook.com. Check out the sealed gacha that we just put up. These are one-of-a-kind offerings that we have offered here to you guys, and they're sweet. The sealed gacha has seen so much love, it's had to be restocked twice now, and it's not even been live for an entire week yet. You know, it's just exciting. It's my favorite. The community asked for it for 2 or 3 months straight, and we finally made it happen. So go take advantage of it while we still have sealed inventory to run the gacha machine with. And again, any questions, any concerns, any skepticism, any of that, come into Discord. Let's have a conversation. It's the best place to learn a thing or two about Collector Crypt.
Awesome. Well, BassBuddha, thank you so much for coming on. Hope people learn some stuff, and I guess onwards and upwards for cards.
That's right, man. Everyone's got a favorite Pokemon, so give Collector Crypt a try and come find your next favorite card.
Awesome. All right, thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.